Up next, we have Dr. Jonathan McGrath and Dr. Basia Lopez, who will discuss the National Institute of Justice's Forensic Intelligence Initiative. Dr. Jonathan McGrath joined the National Institute of Justice in 2015 and serves as a senior policy analyst with the Office of Investigative and Forensic Sciences in Washington, D.C. He co-manages the Forensic Technology Center of Excellence program and co-initiated the scientific collaborative effort to develop NIJ's Forensic Intelligence Framework. With a background in chemistry and forensic sciences, he coordinates closely with NIJ's social scientists to develop innovative, multidisciplinary research opportunities and programs. Dr. Basia Lopez is a social science research analyst in the Office of Research, Evaluation, and Technology at the National Institute of Justice, where she leads firearm, violence, and victims of crime programs of research. She also works on projects related to terrorism and school safety. Dr. Lopez co-initiated and now leads a scientific collaborative effort to develop NIJ Forensic Intelligence Framework to assist local and state law enforcement agencies in integrating forensic crime lab data into the criminal intelligence and analysis process to advance opportunities to crime prevention and reduction. She is a recipient of the NIJ Special Act Award in recognition for her leadership in developing the collaborative research project on mass shootings with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit. She co-authored articles on topics related to her areas of expertise. And currently, she is working on her dissertation at Walden University, a PhD in Public Policy and Administration program with a concentration in policy analysis. Welcome, Dr. McGrath and Dr. Lopez.
Good day, everyone. My name is Basia Lopez. I'm a social science analyst for the Office of Research, Evaluation, and Technology at the National Institute of Justice. And together with my colleague from the NIJ's Office of Investigative and Forensic Sciences, Jonathan McGrath, we'll talk about NIJ's Forensic Intelligence Initiative. Specifically, the National Institute of Justice is developing a forensic intelligence framework to assist state, local, tribal law enforcement, and forensic laboratories integrate forensic crime lab data into the criminal intelligence and analysis processes to advance the disruption and prevention of crime through actionable intelligence. Forensic intelligence is defined as the collection, organization, interpretation, and sharing of forensic case data in support of criminal investigations and intelligence procedures. And current practices utilize forensic data to solve and prosecute individual crimes. Well, I will speak about this in a little bit more in more detail in a moment. But for now, I would like to show a disclaimer to the audience that any opinions or points of view expressed are not those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official position or policies of the U.S. Department of Justice. Other two disclaimers are also relevant to this presentation. So take a moment to go over them. So I want to give you a very brief overview of today's presentation. And first of all, I want to underscore that I appreciate the opportunity and together with John to talk to you about our Forensic Intelligence Framework initiative. Though some of you might be familiar with this project already, I still want to provide you with a brief background and the rationale for starting this project. In essence, Forensic intelligence is the accurate, timely, and useful product of logically processing forensic science case data for investigation and or intelligence processes. And what we noted when we have done some, when we dived into literature and needs of and processes that are currently in place in the United States, we noted that forensic data are not typically integrated into crime and intelligence analyses. So we decided to look into this and found that there are domestic, national level efforts in integrating forensic data for analytical purposes, as well as in a few countries abroad, but not necessarily at the state and local level, especially in the United States. What we did find is that Switzerland and Australia appear to have stronger regional local efforts in comparison to the United States. So the end goal of forensic intelligence is to increase the probability of linking cases and understanding crime in a holistic manner by integrating that data, forensic data, into the intelligence processes. Our project is very strongly aligned with a strategic research plan of the National Institute of Justice that focuses on policing research that we need to invest in. This, our institute emphasizes the importance of examining role and other related aspects of forensic science in investigative processes, and thus Forensic Intelligence Initiative closely aligns with this plan. So the way the criminal data is commonly utilized is well captured by what forensic specialists do and what crime and intelligence analysts do. Most of you are very well aware that forensic specialists preserve, process, and send evidence collected at the crime scene to forensic laboratory, where the evidence is then tested, interpreted, and eventually put in a report with the purpose of informing criminal case. And what then happens to data? It is really stored with a minimal chance of being used later or at any other point in time. As for crime analysts, they mainly focus on gathering, collecting, and analyzing existing data. They do it to find series, pattern, and analyze trends, determine hotspots of crime as they happen. They also focus on research and analysis of long-term problems based on various sets of data that are not only current, but also historical data. While intel analysts, what they do, they also develop and link local intelligence based on the information they gather. And that may include data, that may include any other information necessary for producing actionable intelligence. So to be more specific, we prepared this chart for you to look at how the traditionally analysis of synthesized data and linking of local crime result in actionable intelligence. It starts with the operational environment, collection of the data, processing and exploitation of that data, producing information that is being analyzed, and then producing intelligence. While current, but what forensic intelligence adds to the process is the addition of forensic data to the same intelligence process. And the foreign approach, or forensic intelligence or foreign approach, uses these data sets to link and track crime patterns individualized to local jurisdictions and ultimately reduce crime in those areas. What are the known benefits of forensic intelligence? Some studies have shown that they are quite vast and important. First of all, they can be seen at the strategic, operational, and tactical levels of policing. They include early identification of suspects and absolving innocent persons from suspicion. They produce more effective use of forensic traces that inform policing and security actions. General tangible benefits of related intelligence products such as threat risk assessment and situational reports are also the benefits of forensic intelligence. Also, better understanding of the criminal activity as a whole, which is a core principle of intelligence-led policing. These benefits can be achieved through operational and strategic crime analysis in conjunction with intel analysis. An example of an operational intelligence analysis is when law enforcement uses collected drug profiles to find connections between cases that were not suspected, which can also be used for strategic purposes by giving insight into the magnitude and volume of the drug market, number of players in the region, and relative risk of products to public. Tactical analysis results in on-the-go solutions, such as directing officers' patrols to areas where drug dealers operate. So this is pretty much the outline for you of how adapting existing strategies would include forensics. So with this, I would like to give the floor to my colleague, John McGrath. John?
All right, thank you, Basia, for the overview. As Basia mentioned, my name is Jonathan McGrath, and I'm with NIJ's Office of Investigative and Forensic Sciences. So I'm going to go through the presentation content related to NIJ's past and current activities in the development of a forensic intelligence framework. So about 3 or 4 years ago, when Basia and I first started analyzing this concept, we started by doing a literature review. So we've got a pretty robust analysis of the literature. We're developing a bibliography of references as well, and towards the end of the talk, we'll have a list of salient references for the audience to review. We also started reaching out to partners at the various federal, state, and local levels to kind of shop around the idea of what's going on in forensic intelligence right now. Where can we find some current examples, and who are some willing partners who are exploring this from a variety of angles. We also reached out to other countries. As Basia mentioned, Australia and Switzerland have been the go-to examples published in the peer-reviewed literature, providing information on what they've been producing and developing in terms of forensic intelligence models. And we've also been coordinating with our federal partners in specifically related to their current programs. So back in December 2019, a report came out called Promising Practices in Forensic Intelligence, and this was stood up primarily as a work product of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, which is chaired by the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and they were in partnership with the Department of Homeland Security's Office of Intelligence and Analysis, as well as the Global Justice Information Sharing Initiative. And this report really focused on providing a roadmap to provide law enforcement intelligence functions and fusion centers with promising practices and recommendations on how to develop or enhance relationships between forensic laboratories and intelligence units to further build out agency intelligence efforts. And this report provides examples of ways to leverage laboratory data, laboratory results, and the analysis to augment intelligence operations. So they gave very specific examples on how labs and intelligence can work together to exchange information, and they also provided a checklist for labs and intelligence units to use to help strengthen the relationships and collaboration. So they focused on certain needs like creating joint understanding of the lab and law enforcement needs, learn about the lab's capabilities and services, and learn what types of forensic data comes out of the labs, looking at ways to improve evidence submission processes and data sharing agreements, and provide training on how lab data can be used as intelligence to facilitate an understanding of how intelligence works. So I definitely encourage the audience to check out this report, and it gives some really concrete examples to further the conversation. Next, NIJ published an article in our NIJ journal on using forensic intelligence to combat serial and organized violent crimes. So this really kind of was a pivotal point where NIJ demonstrated its commitment to using and communicating the ways that forensic data can be used as a forensic as a potential tool for forensic intelligence activities. So this publication goes over the variety of disciplines that can be used from the lab. Specifically for the forum this week, we're looking at firearms investigations and intelligence products that can be used for crime gun analysis. So this report goes into that detail, but then also looks at the other forensic disciplines, looks at DNA, looks at the information coming from seized drug units and toxicology units, and ways to kind of put the pieces together to develop a forensic intelligence program. And so this article explored some of the existing activities. As Basia mentioned, there's certain activities going on both at the state and local levels, but then primarily at the federal levels, because that's where a lot of the activity coalesces and where a lot of resources are available. So there are crime gun intelligence centers. We'll hear more about that on the intelligence panel discussion later this afternoon. Both ATF and Bureau of Justice Assistance are working to support those CJICs. The DEA also has drug signature programs. And so they're looking at ways to link seizures together, looking at the chemical characteristics, not only of the controlled substances through isotope analysis and other distinct chemical characterization tools, but they're also looking at the cutting agents, looking at adulterants and other aspects of those drug materials to link up cases. CBP, or Customs and Border Protection, does forensic pollen analysis, and that's used to develop pollen profiles to understand where a material or a person or a drug may have come from around the world and how it transited the nation's borders and entered the country. New Jersey is a good example of a state level program. So their drug monitoring initiative uses intelligence from diverse information sets to combat the opioid crisis and current drug crisis. And so they're looking at seizure data, they're looking at overdose data, data from emergency rooms and first responders, as well as prescription drug monitoring programs, and putting all those elements together to help pull together actionable information to combat the drug crisis. And as we mentioned, Switzerland and Australia stand as international examples as well. Switzerland in particular has had success with investigating crimes involving fraudulent identification documentation, as well as looking at burglaries and using forensic intelligence. Australia has had similar successes looking at illegal drug crimes as well as property crimes. So we initially met with our federal partners to gather some information with some meetings back in 2020 and earlier this year. And then we also hired a consultant team to conduct a number of site visits over the course of this last year. So we had 7 site visits, including the list of locations that you see on this slide. Denver, Philadelphia, we're looking at the general forensic disciplines used for intelligence purposes. Cuyahoga County and Cleveland, Ohio, and the surrounding areas, we had them look at their forensic intelligence activities related to sexual assault kits. New Jersey, I mentioned the drug monitoring initiative activities. Milwaukee looked at crime guns. And then again, Switzerland and Australia provided additional international examples. Switzerland in particular, looking at the local level detail. And then Australia has a little bit of a different system where their forensic intelligence is conducted at a regional level. So where is NIJ right now? So we're focusing on next steps for developing and publishing a forensic intelligence framework specifically geared for state and local law enforcement agencies in the United States to inform prevention and disruption approaches using forensic laboratory data. So NIJ is developing a measurable framework right now and the model for state and local use to implement these foreign strategies. Right now, NIJ has already reviewed all of the reports from the site visits and has reviewed the current literature to inform the framework. And we're in the midst of developing our final reports to make those publicly available to continue the conversation. I also want to give a nod, I'll get to on the next slide, but there's a paper in the references from Brunschultz et al. In 2016 that discusses guiding principles for developing a forensic intelligence approach. And I think we've seen many of these principles have been echoed and exemplified in different ways from these site visits. So the next slide is going to incorporate some of the ideas from that particular paper, as well as the site visit findings, and really does compare well with the findings from the CICC report that I mentioned earlier. So as far as the guiding principles, we've identified 5 basic categories that we think are important for the implementation of a forensic intelligence program. So the first being collaboration, that strengthening communications and collaboration amongst the partners is incredibly important. Interoperability, that goes for data, but then as well as translating and understanding of the processes and workflows to ensure that the laboratory workflows are marry up well with the process and workflows of the law enforcement agencies. Integrity is also a very important principle. And this really goes to the data integrity. When we're talking about certain operations that are using either preliminary data before confirmatory data is understood, that data integrity and the understanding and interpretation of that data is incredibly important. Justice, fair and impartial administration of justice is incredibly important as well. We're not only thinking about the forensic intelligence strategies to identify suspects, but we're also considering the ways that the forensic intelligence programs can be used to absolve innocent persons from suspicion. And sustainability is another important component. We know of examples of programs that can get started up really quickly, but without having the support from all stakeholders, it can be challenging to have a sustainable program. So we've identified 5 pillars that go along with this examination: organization, process, technology, capabilities and resources, and information sharing are 5 distinct pillars that go along with the general important factors for implementation purposes. And I'll go into these in a little more detail in the following slides. So number 1, organization. This is incredibly important. Getting leadership buy-in and support, having strategic management and outreach to the appropriate stakeholder organizations is incredibly important. And there's some programs that have embedded intelligence analysts within laboratory operations. And we're going to hear from that later this afternoon on the intelligence panel. But it's important when acknowledging that organizational structure to evaluate the best placement of staff and resources within the current organization charts, and really developing an understanding of where the people and resources are best suited to develop those effective enforcement strategies. So as far as outcomes, we're looking at where should the direction of the program be focused? Should it be crime guns? Should it be drugs? Should it be another priority that's important for the jurisdiction? Prioritizing the types of samples that come in and which go to the front of the line for laboratory analysis, to develop actionable information is incredibly important. Timeliness is important to consider. The threat and risk assessments and the communications, all of these things a jurisdiction should really consider when putting a plan together. Of course, the goals are having timely and effective, speedy communications to make sure that the right information is developed at the right time and is provided to the appropriate stakeholders. So getting those stakeholders all at the table, all involved, all participating is incredibly important, not only to get the program off the ground, but also to support deconfliction where necessary between the partners. So pillar 2 in process. Basia already spoke about the role of forensic data within the intelligence and crime analysis cycles. So, ensuring that data is combined appropriately and at the right time is important. As I mentioned before, combining the preliminary data plus the confirmation data is important as well. You can have field drug testing equipment providing some preliminary results, but until that information is confirmed in the laboratory, all of that information needs to be cycled back into the workflows. Programs should also consider the current and best practices and really consider modifying standard operating procedures where needed, and also conducting internal impact assessments of how the data is being used and where it's most effective. And this is an iterative review process. The outcomes, we're looking at identifying connections that may have been missed by traditional methods or may have been missed because the forensic data may come down the pipeline, 3, 6 months or a year down the line. We want to make sure that those connections are made in a timely manner. So looking at the outcomes of reports back on that feedback and appropriate procedures is important. Of course, the goal is that timely delivery for the implementation of these processes and having the appropriate feedback mechanism to improve these processes. So pillar 3, technology. This is incredibly important. Laboratories have information management systems that they use, but so do the other law enforcement agency stakeholders. So it's important to have the appropriate digital data stored and shared and communicated effectively. So outcomes for this, of course, is the more timely detection of serial crimes, prioritization of forensic analysis, and linking unsolved crimes or even cold cases. So the goal is to produce more advanced forensic intelligence products and get that information out to improve investigative leads and cold case clearance. The 4th pillar is the capabilities and resources. So I mentioned before that having the appropriate staff in the right places, but ensure that those resources are allocated appropriately. There may be cross-training involved or details or rotations amongst agency partners, within the laboratories or within the intelligence units. We're also seeing that research partnerships are also incredibly important. That's research can be used to improve and evaluate the current programs. And so research partnerships have been found to be of value in other programs. So the outcomes here inform strategic planning, informs resource allocation, and also informs real-time surveillance strategies. So the goals are to match that staffing and resource capacity to meet that demand, and that demand can be identified and ebb and flow based on the stakeholder feedback. And the last pillar is information sharing. So it's incredibly important with distinct partners that they develop the appropriate policies for information sharing. So developing appropriate memorandum of understanding or memorandum of agreements, determining what are the methods for timely data sharing and what are those sharing strategies. And the outcomes here, again, we're looking at trying to improve links and understanding trends through this data sharing. There's also fusion center activities that can be improved upon. This is something that the CICC report mentions as well. And there's also potential for improved local and federal partnerships through this information exchange and connecting the forensic laboratory stakeholders with the other intelligence and investigative units. And the goals, as you can see, are similar to what I've mentioned in the previous slides as well. All right, so this afternoon you will see a panel that will talk about the nexus to firearms examinations and crime gun intelligence centers. So I do want to point the audience to a few other resources on NIJ.gov. There's a notes from the field article on using forensic intelligence analysts to drive gun crime investigations. And the Miami-Dade team, Eunice Delgado, who we'll hear from later, they published a article in FSI Synergy earlier this year as well. So we're looking forward to hearing from these teams. We're going to hear from Phoenix and Philadelphia and Milwaukee, representing their crime gun intelligence operations. And we thank you for your participation in this event. And I'll turn the microphone over to Basia to see if she has anything else to add and to close us out.
Thank you, John. The only thing that I would like to add is to the difference between principle and pillars. So when we developed this framework, by the way we understand pillars is that they are the fundamental essence that particularly produces a a set quality that we identified. While pillars, we understand the pillars as the word implies by itself. It's a post that is used to support the architecture of this framework. So that's the only thing that I wanted to add. And with this, I think we want to also thank our colleagues. So next slide, please. These are the list of references. This is the NIJ's forensic intelligence team, current and former, three at the bottom, who added to this work on daily basis and help develop all the products and provide a review and such. So thank you very much. And I think we are moving on to the next slide. This is our information, contact information. If you have any questions, as John mentioned a moment ago, we are happy to listen. We are happy to learn from you, and we definitely will consider to incorporate your concepts and ideas into our work. So here are our email addresses, and I think they are also available with our biographies. So thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.
Yeah, and thank you very much, everybody. And hopefully you had a chance to jot down our email addresses, and I'll switch back to our references as well in case you do want to make a note of any of the references. We could leave this up for another minute or so, and we'll try to work with the RTI staff to add this slide to the event webpage so you can find more information on the forensic intelligence activities. So thank you very much.
Thank you again, Drs. McGrath and Lopez, for your presentation. That was an extremely interesting topic. We are out of time for a question and answer session. However, please type any questions you have into the chat pod and we will get them answered. We will now take a short break. Upon our return, we will dive into more presentations and a discussion moderated by Stephanie Styloff of the Miami-Dade Police Department.